Now, the casting is yet another piece pulled from an already unstable construction. The casting of Lupita Nyong'o as Helen was, for obvious reason, a misstep. It does not have to be Diana Kruger, who played in my opinion, perfect Helen of Troy in the movie Troia 2004. But at least it should go in that direction. Another great example of a Helen of Troy would be the Greek actress, or I should say late Greek actress, Irene Papas. That has nothing to do with her, Lupita, acting ability. A talented actress can still be fundamentally miscast. And that alone would not necessarily ruin the film. The real issue is that Nolan pushes this approach to its absolute limit. Odyssey's crew consists of blonde Europeans, black actors, Indian actors. There's even a Korean one there. It's certainly diverse. Everyone is represented, except Greeks, who, by the way, contributed to the budget of the movie. The decisive problem here is that the screenplay never once attempts to explain this composition. If the film had established that these were allied warriors from distant lands who had joined the Greek coalition against Troy. By the way, we do see something similar with the Argonautica in terms of gathering different regional heroes. So that would have been perfectly reasonable. A little bit questionable, maybe, but it would be reasonable and people could understand. Instead, here in the movie, it does the exact opposite. When a black actor and an Indian actor stand side by side and casually declare, "We are Greeks," the moment becomes somewhat unintentionally comical. Honestly, it feels absurd and a bit insulting to some degree. And yes, I know what many people will say. Well, I guess what many people will say. At the moment, countless videos are appearing online explaining that the Odyssey is not a historical document. It's a work of mythology, a fictional story. And to be honest, when people saying this, it always really upsets me. It really triggers me, to say it politely. One that has been retold and reshaped countless times. And yes, as mentioned a few times, those stories can have errors in them, which can come from mistranslations or miscommunications. For example, Athena's role in the plot against Zeus. Athena had literally no reason to revolt against her father. Quite the opposite, actually. It does not fit her character, nor does it align with any of her characteristics or ideals. Moreover, she's the only one who does not get punished for revolting, while everyone else did. She is not mentioned before or after this in that context either. Anyway, the argument goes as follows. You can simply do whatever you want with it, because it is not historical. Well, that is absolute nonsense, and nothing else but that. Again, while it is true that those stories are not real, they are not events that actually happened. But those stories have meaning, symbolism, and so much more. They were used to teach, educate, to explain the surroundings, to warn, to show so much different things, and to explain so many things. And thus, every appearance, every name, every usage of a certain word over another, again, dad instead of father, had meaning. You can even find meaning in the very names of the characters and their lineages. So, the argument, it is just mythology, completely misses the point and shows that people have no idea what mythology actually is. They most likely compare it to Marvel or DC comics, like a comic book story, which becomes even more evident when we are talking about the different versions of stories. As said before, even the lineages have meaning. Thus, there can be different origins depending on what is needed. For example, Aphrodite, the wonderful goddess of love, and so much more, either being much older than Zeus, that would be the Theogony from Hesiod, born out of the fight between Kronos and Uranus, when, well, something gets cut off, and thus being the oldest member of the Olympians, symbolizing that love is beyond power, stronger, it is fundamental. Or, as it is the case in Homer's epic, she is born as the daughter of Zeus, making her much younger and less powerful than Zeus. Next thing that so many people seem to miss, the Odyssey, obviously, is a fictional story. It is a mythological story. Yet, it is still firmly rooted within a specific historical world. Another topic I will certainly, at least I think I will make a video about. It belongs to a recognizable culture, place, and period of time. If you intend to adapt that story with any degree of authenticity, there are certain boundaries that naturally come with the setting. Now, consider The Great Wall. That film is clearly fantasy as well. I mean, it features gigantic monsters, so no one would mistake it for a historical documentary. Yet, imagine if Matt Damon's character had suddenly encountered a group of unmistakably Spanish looking men in their traditional Spanish clothing, who casually introduced themselves by saying, "We are Chinese." I doubt many people would have found that convincing. Yet, of course, no one is free to make basically whatever film he wants, as long as it does not against any law. He could even make an Odyssey, in which Odysseus pulled out an iPhone, searches for a signal on the Cyclops Island. To be honest, I'd definitely watched it, because that sounds like a funny parody. But if he chooses to do that, he also has to accept that not everyone will think it's a good idea. And let's be clear here. Casting decisions like these repeatedly pull the audience out of the story. For example, the Korean actor, who even slips into the kind of exaggerated acting style more commonly associated with Korean dramas or K-dramas, who is completely out of place in an adaptation of The Odyssey. Again, as a parody, I would probably enjoy it. Take it ad absurdum, but make it clear that it is a parody. Now, as said a few times, he just needed to change the names. In my opinion, he simply doesn't belong in this particular production, a non-parody. The Korean actor that is. Another issue is Hollywood's almost compulsive desire to pick recognizable stars into even the smallest supporting roles. So, Tom Holland is kinda unconvincing in this role, if not completely misplaced, because, at least for me, all I can see there is Spider-Man. His body language feels unmistakably 21st century, as if Spider-Man had, because of whatever reason, traveled back in time into, well, the time of ancient Greece. Robert Pattinson. Here I only see Cedric. I did not watch Twilight. And Anne Hathaway. Her face is just too well known. So much so that I can't really see her as Penelope. I'm not saying that her acting skills are bad. I just say her face is too recognizable. But those were not that bad actors, which is a bit ironic because one is literally playing a complete worm. Yet it becomes difficult to stay immersed when every few minutes another famous face walks across the screen. So again, the TikTok like cutting pushes every possibility of immersion out of the window. So instead of seeing Odysseus' world, we are reminded of characters like Spider Man, Batman, Cedric, etc. I think a few unfamiliar actors, newcomers, would have served the film so much better. Now, if there is one performance I'd single out, it would be Samantha Morton, who played Kirke. She played it well. But I do have some issues with it. Do not get me wrong, she does look beautiful. Yet Kirke should be otherworldly beautiful, something you just cannot simply realistically depict on screen. It is one of the roles that is nigh impossible to depict on screen. She is an outstanding actress, as she has proven many times before. And even here, she delivers a strong performance, so the acting is not the issue. Yet, I do not think the role itself suits her particularly well. Matt Damon does what he can, as he usually does. I just do not see him as Odysseus at all. He just does not really have the face for it. It sounds a bit harsh, I know. Certain roles just must be portrayed with a certain look. On top of that, the screenplay and the direction simply don't give him much of a hook with to begin with. I guess under those circumstances, he did pretty well. But there's just nothing more he could have done. It was destined to fail from the very beginning. And it is not his fault. Instead of portraying the proud, intelligent strategist Homer describes, Nolan transforms Odysseus into a slow, lumbering figure who never once projects convincing authority.